Hey guys, welcome to Behind the Brush. I am not Joy Baker, as you've seen in previous episodes. My name is Olivia. I am a gallery assistant here at All About Art Gallery and Custom Framing. Joy and Adam are welcoming a new baby boy into the world, Mr. Ryman James. So
Yay.
I get to do the fun part this time. I am very, very lucky for episode 12 to be joined by Angela Howell. Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm so excited to be here and
I was excited to be able to get to interview you because anytime you and I get together, we're going to chat.
we chat a little bit, just a little.
So, Angela, tell us a little bit about how you got into art, what your background is. You know, why are we here with your art today?
That's a really interesting question. As my background is marketing and sales, it is not art. I had a detour in life, I call it, and I ended up publishing a book in 2015. Well, I got to back up a little bit. I always wanted to paint, but I wasn't trained. I didn't show any aptitude of art as a youngster. I never had any classes. But I started collecting like books and brushes and things that I would put away, but I wouldn't let myself paint because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so in 2014, I let a friend, Christy Pilkington, that some of people know and love, I let her show me a few basic things, and we quickly figured out that what I really wanted to do was abstract art. And so, fast forward, I started playing. I did some work with Millie Jarrett, and then I published my book in 2015, so about a year and a half after I'd started playing. And this crazy voice said, take paintings to the book launch. I'm like, this is dumb, it's a book launch. But I took 8 paintings to a coffee shop where I launched my book, and the people said, we'd like to, keep your work. I'm like,
nice.
Why? They're like, to put it on the walls. I'm like, well, people will see it. And they laughed too, and they're like, well, yeah, that's the point. I'm like, well, they don't have hanging stuff on them, and they're like, we'll do that. So anyway, I accidentally launched my art the same night I launched my book. So yeah, it's fun. It's a wonderful outlet for me to just let loose, I guess, on the canvas, and I did not know that was in me at all.
Well, and I am actually really curious because a lot of our artists, and even when I paint, I'm very tangible with the way that I paint, and it sounds like from your story, that was what was holding you back. You felt like you had to be tangible, but turns out you didn't. Abstract is more than just slapping paint on a canvas, so I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about what the process is? Is there intentional composition? How do you pick your colors? Where do you start? What happens when you create an abstract?
Abstract's fun. It's like, where do you start? Where are you going? And where do you stop? I mean, that's kind of the question. So for me, it's more about a spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. It's more about unleashing creativity. It's an expression. So the most that I might do is there may be an inspiration for a color palette.
Okay.
There may be, I do a lot of textural things, and then sometimes I may say, I need a break from textural. So there may be an intention to not do a really textural piece. But other than that, there's not a lot of pre-thought that goes into it. And that makes it hard because when you're, if you're doing something from still life, you kind of know what it's going to end up like. You kind of know when you're there. And this is, paint and move, and it becomes very physical. And then I turn the canvas and, paint, move, grab something. Ooh, I don't like that. Slap more paint. And it's very, physical.
Yeah.
It feels like a whole body, mind, body, spirit experience.
It makes a lot of sense for the pieces we see from you, too, because most of your pieces are larger. And so the physical makes so much sense because you're having to get up and drag and push it around and really reach, and in more ways than one, to get the right moment.
Absolutely. The small ones are like, for me, climbing inside a shoebox and trying to paint small, and it's very difficult. I have a few, I've done a few, maybe 14 by 14, 16 by 20, and then I've even started occasionally doing little bitty ones as a replica of another one, kind of as a thank you for a commission. And it's like, it's fun, it's different, but I can't get the whole experience that I'm used to having with a bigger one.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm noticing especially thinking of smaller ones, most of your smaller ones seem more about texture. You, even though they're small, you almost have to get up very close to them to kind of experience them fully for all the layers that you put in. So I can see what you're saying, where you kind of have to get into that space, versus with these guys, it's just so much more sweeping, I guess.
A lot more freedom, a lot more real estate to cover.
Yeah. So you mentioned that a couple of things were hard in that composition and really just starting an abstract, but I'm curious, as an artist overall, what would you say your most challenging experience has been?
Well, I think finding my own voice has probably been the hardest thing. I see abstracts that I like, and then if I sort of try to do it, it just doesn't come out, what I've had to learn is that's not in me. If that was in me, that wouldn't be so hard.
Sure.
And so I think giving myself permission to figure out what's in me to paint and paint that, and not try to paint what somebody else's giftings is. I mean, I didn't get that, I didn't get that set of gifts, so to speak. I got what's in me to paint.
You have to figure out what your signature is.
And to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And to embrace it and love it and quit trying to put it in a different box that it was never meant to be in.
Absolutely.
And, give myself freedom also. I think another hard thing is, this one, everyone really liked this one, so let's do 10 more of those. That doesn't work either, because that one was a one of a kind. I can use that, a painting as an inspiration for another, but I always give the caveat, I don't control this. I can have some intentions, but a painting begins to dictate where it's going to go. And, I remember my first one where it's like, wow, I'm going to have to start selling these, or, I don't have to, but I'm choosing to. But there was one, it's like, I'm not selling this one. And this woman was like, I really want that one. And I'm like, well, you're going to really pay. And she's like, I'll really pay. I'm like,
Oh, no.
And so I'm like, okay, but before I had to ship it out, and she'd only seen it online even, I set it up, I set up the easel, but I couldn't copy it because I started with the same palette, and then it just went a different, interesting direction. I'm like, you can't cancel it. You can't copy it. And just let it be. Let the next one be what it wants to be.
I love it. I really do enjoy that, we're talking about challenges, but you're talking about all the things you've learned and almost how it helped you grow, and the fact that you're not letting a challenge be a roadblock. It seems like you're looking at it as a different path, which I'm sure leads you to all sorts of fun experiences with your art.
It does, and I guess that's another lesson, is to let myself play, knowing that sometimes the play shows me what I like, and sometimes it shows me, I didn't really like that. I usually don't, I want everything to, end up being great, but sometimes it's just a lesson of, I didn't have as much fun with that one. I really like over here, but it's all learning. It's all about learning, and
Awesome. Well, I guess my next question is maybe a trick question, because we, in the sense of, kind of letting the painting do the talking. Do you have an intention of like what you're trying to communicate when you paint, or are you just letting the painting kind of evolve into what it is? Or do you have like a particular message?
Well, so that's interesting. The very first thing that I do with the canvas is I dedicate, and I do an underpainting. Most of the time that's completely covered up, but you can see on this piece that I don't even know what it is anymore, but I keep a photo history of each canvas. So if somebody wants to know what's underneath, I can let them know what was written and that sort of thing.
So neat.
So it's kind of fun, but I wouldn't say that I decide how I want it to feel, but overall, I feel like my work is calming. I feel like it's serene, it's soothing. I have a tendency to be very busy, and I feel like I paint what I need, which is calm.
Yes.
Because I need
I think we can all use
more
some
calm. I'm not into big, vibrant displays of color and a lot of movement, a lot of marks, just real busy pieces. That's not in me to paint. And I make up that I paint what I need to be surrounded with.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people gravitate towards it for that reason, because it's not it's commanding in the sense of, your color palettes and your textures, but it's not, it doesn't feel like they have to do something about anything. They can just go and sit and kind of breathe with your piece. And I think that's why people are gravitated towards it, because they're trying to bring more peace into their homes. So, when we put a piece in the study or over the mantle, they can sit down at the end of that crazy day and just go, okay.
I love to create a piece that has so many contemplative pieces in it to really stand and let it be a visual meditation, if you will.
Yeah.
I like the hints of what's underneath. I think, that goes spiritually with, like I can see you, I see the outside of Olivia, but what a treasure to get glimpses of what's inside, what makes you tick, and we've had great conversations where I get to see that. And so I love the idea of, well, what happened here? Oh, and just to know that there's something there, and then this raking happened that reveals some. I just love to think that there's something more than surface level.
I don't even have anything else to say other than to agree, because it's the conversation that I've had with a lot of people who adore your work, is there is so much to see, and the layers, I think, are really what make your pieces stand out, because it's not just blocks of color. There's so much telling that story going on.
The other thing is we're so busy, and I love a piece that makes you stop and study, as opposed to something that's just in your face and what you're seeing. I love that you can look at it, and even just, this little, it could just be a little section that you would miss if you didn't stand and study it. So I almost like to make someone have to study it if they're going to fully appreciate the work. And of course, you want them to be able to stand from afar and like the work, but I love to add more pieces to discover.
Layers of experience.
Yes.
Just like you have the layers that are building your piece.
Yes.
So, I love it.
Yes.
All right, so one more obscure, because I know everybody wants to know about the abstract. I asked about the composition and the concept behind it. Naming them. I mean, that's kind of a dangerous game, because you don't want to lead someone into assuming one thing or the other.
Yes.
But again, where do you start?
All right, this is really funny because, we were going to mention my book, Finding the Gift, Daily Meditations for Mindfulness. So I'm kind of a word nerd. I love words. And when I finish a painting, sometimes it's before then, I start to feel something. It's like, what am I feeling, or what is it reminding me of? With this one, it felt like, what's over there? And this one is called New Horizons. So it felt like there's a lot going on, but it's like, where is this taking me? And so that's kind of how that came about. But then you can't see it on camera, but this one we have scenic route. I just looked at it, and it just looked like kind of a map with a whole lot of fun, like all the detours that you might want to take. But sometimes I'll look at something and it'll remind me of a destination. Destinations I've never been, so I don't know how that gets planted in my head, but I'll start Googling a phrase that describes. I remember Ma Vie Française felt like really old European cafe. So I started Googling that. I think I Googled really cool old street in Paris, or who knows, and then got the name of something. And so there's been several pieces like that. Or I'll post something and let a reader,
That just happened recently, didn't it?
It did. I posted another one that you just got that I brought you today, last night in Amalfi. And someone saw it and said, it looks like an aerial shot of the Italian coast, the Amalfi coast. And I'm like, I've never even heard of that. But I looked at the pictures and I'm like, it does. And so I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to just say the Amalfi coast. Right. I like to add some intrigue. Sure. So, last night in Amalfi. It's like,
it opens up a whole other interpretation to it.
Because that one has some runs. Could be tears, could be rain. What happened that last night in Amalfi? So I like to play. I like to be a little playful with the
They almost
titles.
sound like intros to novels. You know, you want to read this book. And,
Exactly.
and it's almost like when you take the painting home, you can almost write the book for yourself because you interpret it the way it speaks to you the most.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Cowboy Cha-Cha. A lot of people love that name. Well, I used to Western dance a lot. It's how I met my husband at the Wrangler, if anybody's been around Nashville for a couple of decades. And it just feels like the Wrangler to me, you know, the bling that the girls have, and we're all dressed up, and the boots and the dirt, and
Yeah.
it just felt Western to me. So Cowboy Cha-Cha is actually a dance.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Angela, for taking some time. I mean, I know I was curious because as much as we chat, we've actually not gotten to talk about a lot of this stuff before, and so many people have asked. So I'm excited to be able to share this with everybody and to kind of make it an infamous conversation. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything that you're working on right now that you're just really excited about?
Well, I just brought in another new piece that I'm calling Wild Ride. I love this whole, I don't know why it just keeps happening, but the titles that have this destination feel, because maybe I just want art to take people places. But I felt really drawn to study neutrals, grays and creams.
That's different for you. I mean,
very different.
Not neutral.
I love my aquas, and then when I get, you know, kind of like no aqua allowed on the next one, then I'll go into the blues and that kind of stuff. I don't do a lot of reds or pinks. It's just not in me. But so every now and then there's been a neutral piece. You guys have had a couple kind of black and white monochromatic pieces. And so I'm exploring a neutral palette to see how much energy can happen just from a neutral palette. So that's kind of fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to see more.
Yeah, thank you. Me too.
Very nice.
And thank you so much for bringing me here. I love to talk to you. I love you and Joy and Adam and Lauren. It's just the best place. So I love your content. I love your dedication to the community. And
Thank you.
it's an honor to be represented by you guys.
You guys make it easy. I mean, we are all passionate about what we do, artists and gallery staff included, and I think that just makes it effortless on all parts. So we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy what we're presenting to you guys, and it makes us excited to do it every day. So
Awesome.
well, guys, obviously there's so much more to see than what we have been able to talk about today. If you are around Hendersonville, Tennessee, or the Nashville area, come and see us in person. We actually represent close to 50 local artists, so there is really something for everyone. A lot of our local artists are also happy to do commissions as well. So if you see some things you like, but maybe you need something really, really big or in a special size or whatnot, these guys will be very happy to take on the challenge. We are located at 260 West Main Street in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And you can also check us out at allaboutartgallery.com or on Facebook and Instagram. But there's just so much you got to see in person. I mean, if you can get in, we would love to have you. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. And definitely come in and see more of Angela's work.